When lockdown struck, we thought it would be months or years before we could make films again. How could we make something which relied so much on working closely with other people when we weren't even allowed to leave our own homes? But now, we've made a film between 6 people in 5 different households across 2 different countries. It took some experimenting, to say the least. I'm Patrick, the director of An Endless Summer. When lockdown hit, I was in the Isle of Man with my partner Bethany, where we run Dark Avenue Film. Freya, the star of the film, was in Shrewsbury, and Phoebe, the editor, was in York. We had one composer, John, in the Isle of Man, and another, Emma, in London. We hadn't been planning to make this film, but we'd been in touch with Freya, who we've known since university and worked with many times. She'd recently had a baby, Lila, and had had more time with her than expected due to the lockdown, which started as she was preparing to head back to work as a professional actor. By the time we approached her about An Endless Summer, the first lockdown was starting to lift, and she was now having to prepare to go back to work all over again. But this time, she'd be returning to a completely changed and socially distanced film industry, where work may be very hard to come by. So, when the Isle of Man Arts Council announced their COVID-19 Resilience Fund, we thought Freya's unique perspective would be ideal to explore in a film, and she was excited by the idea too. But how would we shoot it? That's the big question. With the Isle of Man borders locked down, there was no way we could come together to shoot. But the postal service was still operating. Maybe we could send her the kit and work remotely. We asked Freya how she felt about filming it herself, under our guidance. As always, she was up for the challenge. We wrote a script in a week, capturing that moment in time, and a few weeks later we were granted the funding. As Freya isn't a trained filmmaker, the biggest challenge was making it simple and achievable for her to film, while still feeling professional, and giving it as high production value as we could achieve despite its low budget. While lots of people were making Zoom films which were very impressive, our aim was to make something with a cinematic look in lockdown. We decided to film on an iPhone 11 Pro, with moment prime lenses, which will be user-friendly for Freya, but still give a high-quality look. We made the biggest production decision when we were writing the script. Freya would not record sound while she was filming. The script we wrote was intentionally a monologue, with minimal description or directions, so Freya could record it as a voiceover. Bethany found a microphone that Freya could plug into her computer and a free software to record into.
Hello.
While the iPhone would record some sound along the way, which would be useful, especially sounds that Lila made whilst filming, the film didn't rely on sound matching image. This gave Freya one less thing to worry about. We'd post the equipment out to Freya with instructions on how to use it and a bit about filming principles such as composing a shot and judging lighting to get her thinking like a filmmaker, and she would then film herself at home. But how would she know what to shoot? And how could I guide the filming as director if I wasn't even there? Freya's internet connection fluctuated, but even directing over Skype would be a challenge if the person filming had never shot a film before. Really, the biggest challenge with working remotely is communication, which has to be top-notch to avoid confusion or misinterpretation. No matter how much planning happens, often things work differently once you're on location, and as a director you can adapt to it, improvise, and try things out live.
Okay.
With this, however, I had to just make the plan and see how Freya interpreted it. We decided to shoot a test version of the film here in the Isle of Man, with Bethany and a toy sheep as stand-ins for Freya and Lila. It would allow me to direct the visuals, see which lens worked best for each shot, where the camera should be positioned, keeping in mind the capability Freya would have. Bethany also recorded the voiceover, so we could edit together what we'd shot. It enabled us to check the pacing of the film, make note of where we needed longer takes, and even cut some shots completely before the real filming began. We wrote down all the details as we went, taking photos of each setup, and Freya could then recreate each shot in her home. Some shots, such as ad hoc footage of Lila, would have to be left to the experts. We parcelled up the kit and sent it off to Shrewsbury and waited for the first footage to come in. In the next video, hear from Freya herself about what it was like to shoot her first film, starring herself and an unpredictable baby.